In the previous tip movie, we put a series of paving bricks through this area here by right-clicking, going to drafting settings. We set up a new angle of 46.87 to match the line that the drafter had put in here. We set a step size of 610. That would leave a 10mm gap between each of the paving bricks in the series, and we then copied, being very careful to pick our 48.67 angle and not going on the 45-degree angle. But there's an easier way, and that's with the array command. Before I do that, what I'll do is to edit the block, select the polyline there, and I'll say yes, it does have a border color, and I'll give it a border color, a sort of dark, very dark grey, and I'll close the block editor. What that should have done is give me a black line around it. Let me just check again. Edited, has a border color, forgot to set yes on. So now when we close the block editor, we've now got a dark line around the block. What I want to show is that we could make that series of paving bricks by using the array command. So that's modify and array. Up pops this dialog box. We're going to say one row and 7 columns. We're going to select the object, which is this one here, and return. The column offset will make it, as we did before, 610, 610, and we'll OK it. And we form our array. Now all we need to do is rotate that array, pick that as the base point, and we'll rotate it 46.87 to match our line. So that's another alternative way of producing that same group. You could even turn that group into a block and move it into position. Notice that because we edited the block, all the previous instances of the block now show the dark line around the individual pavers. You can see here also that maintaining a even gap of 10mm all the way along there, one of the last pavers is going to eat into here, and we need to do some cutting of a block there and cut the block there to fit in. So there's going to be some tricky cutting in that area. So once again, CAD proves invaluable because you are modelling the real world. You can see what's going to happen. The path that we've just placed leaves us with some awkward arrangements towards the end before we move to the porch for the house. What I'm going to do is to copy that block, then I'll explode it, break it up into its constituent parts, and do the same with the polyline. So now we're left with some lines. I'll use the draw line command and draw from the end of that one to the end here. So I'm just using osnaps as single snaps rather than leave them on and run the risk of them causing grief. I'll modify and I'll match properties of that line there. So now all 3 parts of the half paver are on the same layer in the same color. So I'm going to create a block and we'll call it half paver, and for a pick point, base point, we'll do that, convert everything to a block, and we're OK. Now I'm going to select and edit that block. We'll make this a polyline like we did originally by join. Now it's one entity and we can set it to be filled. We made a Yes, I'll continue. Whoops. And there we are. I think I'll do one more bit of editing, which is to say it has a border and pick as a border colour that colour. No, it wasn't 66 we wanted, it was colour 251. And now I can close my block editor. So now I have a paver. What I'll now do is rotate that paver so that it fits nicely. If I put ortho on now, I can get a precise rotate, and now I can move the base point there, and let me take ortho off, and I can move it and put it in position there. So I'll see if I can pick the end there, and I can. So now my half paver sits quite nicely in position. We have a small problem, we need to move it by 10 millimeters. So let's pick it and move. That will be the base point. We'll use the relative coordinate system at 10 angle 0 and enter. Now the half paver sits nicely in position. Well, as I look at this design, I wonder why it is that the angle of 48.17 or whatever was chosen. I don't think the design would be compromised if we were working to a 45-degree angle, and that would make assembling pavers in that area and half pavers much easier. So what I'm going to do now is to delete those pavers, so we'll erase them and we'll try again. I'll mirror this half paver, right click and mirror. The first point of our mirror line will be the grip, that point there, and the second point will be there because ortho is on. I can now take ortho off, unselect all. So we've mirrored that half paver. Now if we had a line of pavers as we generated before with the array command, we could line them up with this paver. What I'll do though is to explode it, because then I should be able to pick up the midpoint of that line there. But I digress. So let's take a paver, let's copy it from that point there to say there. I'll just check my settings. Your object settings are off, so we can cancel from there, and now we can array. So modify and array. We need to 1 row 7 columns as we had before. Select the objects. Here's our object, and hit enter when ready, and OK. So now we have our row. What I'll do now is rotate this group at 45 degrees. Now I think we're in position to move them and stick them on there. I'll explode this one, and the reason for that, that'll help me pick up this group and move them by the midpoint, which is the second option there. If I zoom in, can you see I can find the midpoint and then come over here and click midpoint again and find that midpoint. So now we have our row of pavers leading to our landing area. We can select this paver here and explode it. Now we have that line running through there, which is at 135. So I could move that line to this point here, but I'll get rather a strange angle. No, it won't. It should be okay. Let's do it. Let's move it to that point there and just check that I've still got 135, and I do. So our design is taking shape. It looks quite crisp. What we now need to do is tidy this area up here to see whether we can improve things. If you look, that group there has the same shape as this group up here, so we could copy, and from that point there we could find that end point over there and that's done. Then you have a run of 2 and they are straight up. So why not just take a pair, copy them from here, then pick that group and rotate them. That's the base point, rotate 45, and then move them from this as a base point to the end of that one. So elements on the design on the right hand side have been used over here on the left, and so I've made a slight adjustment. So instead of running at this somewhat unusual angle through here, I've put a design which doesn't vary very much. This will be perhaps a raised lawn area, or lawn area at least. We might have some borders on the outside of the pavers, but I'm sure you get the general drift. The number of cuts required by the construction team here is going to be dramatically reduced. So I hope you can see that all the drafting aids that are inbuilt into gCADPlus is really worth paying some attention and using all of the modify commands and other aids that are there in order to help you draft efficiently.